Okay, I got the red smoke.
Gun runs north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
Okay, so totally shifting gears. You were just on a completely technical call that was largely and likely over both of our heads.
100%.
So-
I still struggle spelling IBM properly.
Yeah, I can see that. So Friday episodes, it started. Actually, I think this might be like the 36th round. So I do one a week, so I'm over half a year into it. But
Cool.
trying to keep up with Q&A, which is tough. I get a lot of questions. I try to pick topics that are. They come in like tranches, so I'll try to pick one from that and move on, so it's not repetitive. But having you on, having your background on leadership should probably be the soup du jour.
Good times.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go right in. I try to limit it to 5 minutes for your
Okay.
answer, so it's a little bit of an economy of thought and idea. I used to have the name, and then I went all anonymous so people don't worry about sending in a question. So I actually, some of them you can kind of tell, or I assume that it's a guy, and others you can't. So describe it in whatever terms make you
Very
feel
well.
comfortable. Question 1. I'm having a debacle with my current employer and would appreciate your thoughts on the situation. Some background info. I'm a garbage man and have been for 8 years. Do you know any garbage men?
There was so I went to boot camp in San Diego. This guy, he was I don't know, he must have had an age waiver. He was so old, but he was a garbage man and decided to join the Navy as a midlife crisis.
Okay. I know none.
That's the only one.
Yeah, and that actually, don't worry, was not the question, but I just
Yeah, okay.
realized I don't know any garbage men. I started throwing trash in the back of a truck and slowly worked my way up to a driving position. I now hold the position of a driver trainer. I'm responsible for training all new hires within my business unit or area. While holding these positions, I put myself through college to obtain a business degree.
Right on.
Yeah, my aspirations lie with getting into a leadership/management role. I've applied for several leadership roles on multiple occasions, but continuously get passed up. They always end up hiring some tool bag that lasts a short period of time, but I'm starting to lose faith in the process and that I may not have a shot at moving up. I would appreciate any recommendations you would have towards this situation. Do you think it's time to move on to a different company or continue to cross my fingers that they'll eventually select me? I have an interview tomorrow, 1/5/2021. So this has already occurred. Hopefully it went well.
Yeah.
For a supervisor role, and I'm tossing my eggs, or all my eggs, in this basket for this one. Should he stick it out? Should he move on?
Yeah.
Suggestions from a leadership perspective.
I mean, change is hard and it's uncomfortable. It scares people. And so, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. It kind of sounds like it's no pun intended, a toxic work environment in that they don't appreciate the effort he's put in. I mean, if I was in that company and when you see somebody who is grinding it out, year after year and showing loyalty, loyalty is a two-way street. This gal is obviously loyal to the company
And doing additional stuff outside of the company to better
100%.
himself.
Like that is no joke. I mean, I did that, trying to, be a full-time active duty senior chief and master chief at the time and knock out a business degree. It was a pain in the ass. And it was, and so I think, honestly, I mean, you might be time to look for greener pastures and some place where the loyalty goes both ways.
How long would you wait if you were in any business? How much time would be appropriate for you to smash your head against that door before you start looking at other options?
I think after the second or third Passover with the tool bag, as you said, that might be
one of my favorite descriptors, by the way.
3 strikes. Oh, that's a great one. 3 strikes, you're out. I think if you can't appreciate the hard work I'm doing, why am I going to remain loyal and bust my ass for you guys?
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing about leadership I don't think people discuss enough is the loyalty aspect going both directions.
Totally.
If they're going to continue to hire outside and have repetitive failure, I would say that's you got little Rudolph's red nose going off that perhaps it's time to check something else out.
I mean, it's good to hire outside as well. You don't want to have, because you want to avoid groupthink at all costs. So it's good to have a fresh set of eyes come into your organization, but also you want to have that balance with growing your own leaders from within as well.
Yeah.
But injecting those fresh set of eyes.
So whoever this is, guy, gal, whatever your name may be, hopefully that you now have a supervisory role.
Yeah.
And if not, I would say perhaps now is the time.
Yeah, but right on for, grinding it out, laboring
did.
and then working on that degree and getting it. That's my hat's off to you. That's no joke.
Same. Okay, question 2. Dr. Andy. I am a doctor, but I tell people that I am, by the way.
Right on, you and JT.
Yeah, I have a PhD in talking shit and being sarcastic.
Yes, you do.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Full Auto Friday question about toxic leadership. Have you encountered toxic leaders throughout your travels, specifically ones who were afraid to make decisions that would force them to have to explain themselves or ask permission from higher?
Oh, God.
Any situations that stand out to you, and how did they play out for better or worse? Jason, have you ever seen toxic leadership in your travels throughout the SEAL community?
Seen a few. Yeah, it's really it's
So in broad, well, we're best probably answering this in broad terms,
Very
leaving
broad,
names out of
yeah.
it. But what stands out to you when it comes to toxic leadership?
it almost I love root cause analysis. Admiral Losi got me hooked on that. Like, when there's a problem, get down to the root cause of it. And it
Treat
almost
the problem, not the symptoms.
Yeah, and it almost always, with bad leadership, boils down to arrogance in many ways. Like, the ones I've seen and we talked about it in the podcast a bit, the, passion versus emotion, right? Passionate leaders, they love the problem and really want to find a solution. The arrogant, the emotional leaders love their solution to the problem, and they don't really listen. And people want to go to work for somebody they like, right? And they're going to bust their ass for you if they like you. But part of that is empowering them. No company, SEAL teams or Fortune 500 company, or the Scilabs in our store, the companies I work with now, we don't go out of our way to hire buffoons and idiots. You hire good people.
Who sometimes turn into buffoons and idiots.
They can. I mean, yeah, you get it right as we watching the news. Yep. Sometimes we get it wrong, but we get it right about 90% of the time, and I think that's probably standard throughout.
I would say that's a pretty damn successful rate.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about human beings. Sometimes it's a coin toss.
It is. The humans are a gray area. You never know what you're going to get. But so you hire intelligent people and you want to empower them, right? And those kind of toxic leaders don't do that. They don't empower people. They struggle explaining why you're doing something. Like, my first experience in the SEAL teams, I remember calling my dad and talking to him about this. Was like, my first platoon, we're sitting in a room, and I was shocked that a guy with one platoon under his belt would question the OIC of the platoon, like, why are we doing that? But it was good, because the OIC would fire back, here's why, and lay it out. And those toxic leaders really don't do that. And I think it's because they're either unsure of themselves, or they don't know why they're doing it, or they don't have the courage to stand up and ask why to their higher ups. But
or how about their higher ups in the chain, or how about you ask the why to your chief, to your LPO, who are below you technically in the rank pyramid.
Right.
Solicit guidance and feedback. I mean, how valuable is a seasoned troop chief or platoon chief?
Oh, my God.
I mean, fuck. They are the knowledge nucleus of that. But they're junior. I mean, this most junior ensign is senior to the most senior E9.
Yeah, right.
We can agree that's not...
You brought that up to me, in fact, when you put on your little ensign butter bars.
You can call me sir now if you want to. It's fine. Yeah. But but here's the deal. I mean, like, that's might how it be on rank paperwork.
Yep.
If you're actually trying to live that in reality, stand by. Because that E9 might just take you behind the Connex boxes and knock your fucking teeth out.
You should. Absolutely.
So but again, I didn't go to the academy. I've had great experience with academy officers. Also, not some great ones.
Totally.
But they go through, I have to guess, a lot of classes on leadership and probably some management stuff. And a lot of people, I think, actually confuse leadership and management from time to time.
Yeah.
But they're thrust into a position where they are in charge, because it's a rock, paper, rank organization.
Yep.
But the dude working right underneath them, that 7, probably getting ready to put on 8.
Yeah.
He's probably got 2 decades of experience.
100%.
That's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in that spot right now. You're the CEO of a tech company.
Correct.
And you know more about tech than me now because you're working one, but we're both morons in that field.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I'm reminded of that 10 times a day when I talk to the team. I'm just like, man, I'm a dumbass. But
you're recognizing that, and I've listened to you on calls for the last few days or been around when you're doing work. You're there leading, not trying to do their jobs. You're letting the experts in the field do their expert stuff. And for me, in the community, I mean, I tell people when they ask about leaders, I'm like, listen, the best leaders that I ever worked with were in the SEAL teams, the worst leaders I've ever worked with were in the SEAL.
Some bad ones.
Yeah, was that your experience too?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And one of the biggest things was it was all about them. Like you said, they loved the solution, not the problem. They wanted to be the person to be able to raise their hand and say, it was my plan. And they just wouldn't,
Just arrogance, man.
And they wouldn't ask why. My favorite question, and especially when it came to things like IADs, immediate action drills, where we're maneuvering around, or a clearance tactic, just to say to people, hey, why do we do this?
100%.
And if you can't tell me why, it's okay, because we can fill in that background of knowledge. We can backfill that. But if you're cool with not knowing the why, I'm not cool with that at all.
No, guys will eat a shit sandwich if you explain why they're going to do it, why this is important. Yeah. And a lot of the failures in leadership I've found over the years have been not explaining why, not having a good answer, and then you couple that with an arrogance going, we're going to do it anyway. It's like, that's the wrong answer, particularly when you have a high-performing team, you have a group of talented people, which, like I said earlier, that's what you try to hire to. They're more than capable of understanding why you're doing it. And as a leader, if I can't explain the why, I probably need to rethink what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, and dive into being able to figure out that why.
Oh, totally.
And the end of this, how did it play out for better or worse? And I don't know why this is the case, but in the leaders that I was around that I would describe being the most toxic, at the end of the day, it impacted them very little, but it had a tremendous impact on the people that were around them.
Totally.
So the way it played out is they somehow survived.
Right.
And it augured in the people that were around them to the point some people were like, you know what? I don't want to be a SEAL anymore. I'm out of here.
Oh, totally. That's where, I saw a lot of that. Saw it with a lot of JOs, and you saw it with, that kind of E5, E6. Like, why the hell would I, one bad leader will, you can lose a talent that, for good.
Question 3, touch longer. 24 years old, young man who just got promoted into a managerial position at my workplace, and I have not yet had the opportunity to lead a team in a civilian institute. As I am close to finishing my bachelor's degree study in general management, I more than often had the opportunity to read books and articles about leadership, but as I said, I have never had the chance to practice it. You've mentioned in your podcast before that while you were in the military, you experienced some of the greatest as well as some of the worst kind of leadership. As a part-time soldier myself, I absolutely agree. As the military service in Switzerland is mandatory, there are many young and unexperienced men in leadership positions, and of course, some of them just do a horrible job in leading. Just trying to be the alpha male of a group obviously does not make you a good leader. I could not fucking agree with that more.
Yeah, that's so spot on.
I would like to do a better job in leading as those above mentioned leaders, and I'm trying to find out what I should do or not do, or how I should behave to be a good leader. I am well aware that there is a ton of literature which I could consult, but believe me, that's basically what I did for the last couple of years. Your analytical and clear-minded way of thinking about things impresses me. This is why I would like to hear your opinion about what it takes to be a good leader and what you personally expect from your leaders and from yourself if you are in a leadership position.
That's a great question, or a great one. To start off with, when he says he doesn't have any experience leading, that's not true. And I think a lot of military guys and gals, when they get out, they don't realize the depth of knowledge and leadership they actually have, because they're in the military, you're leading or you're being led
at all times.
At all times. And so it might be you leading yourself or leading one other person, or you're a good follower and you're underneath another leader. And so you have the experience in leadership. You've seen good and bad in that environment. And so, I think there's a lot of the military, a lot of vets have a lack of confidence that it translates to the private sector. I'm telling you flat out, it's the same thing.
Especially if they had what they would consider be less than average experience or a lower than average rank.
Sure.
That seems to really color their opinions on their ability to lead as well, or their experience with it.
Yeah, and I've I can tell you firsthand that even those junior an E4, E5 getting out only a couple of years in, they still know how to lead, and they're farther ahead of their age group in knowing that leadership. But in terms, there's 1,000 books out there, right? But you can really keep it simple, right? One, don't be a dick. Be humble. Being humble is huge.
Be a dick sometimes.
Be an asshole. Yeah, not a dick. But, there's a fine line there, right? But
which I flirted with throughout my entire career.
I will verify that for the entire audience. But keep it simple, right? Don't overthink it. Be humble. Know where you're weak, and know your strengths, and try to capitalize your strengths and your weaknesses. Know what your be very cognizant of your weaknesses, and then find those people who are going to complement your strengths and weaknesses, right, and get them involved. The default position needs to be lead by example. You set the tone, right? If you're in a leadership role, all eyes are on you, whether you want it to or not. That was a lesson learned perpetually throughout my career. If me as here's the best example on leading by example. Gary Richard, one of the most humble dudes I know, the Commodore of Group 1 when I was a CMC. The public works was terrible about mowing the grass at Group 1. Now, the Group 1 building at the time it's the oldest building on the base. You're
talking about the one just inside of NAB on the left?
Yeah. It was built in World War II.
No, that building was built shortly after Washington crossed the Delaware.
Oh, my God, yeah. It was as soon as they figured out what asbestos was, and they filled the building with it.
Let's make the entire building of asbestos.
Oh, my God, that was a pain in the ass. Yeah. But so it looked shitty on the outside because the grass was never mowed. So one weekend, he puts on his little Patriots hoodie and his cutoff shorts, and he's out there mowing the grass. It's like an acre with his push mower. It just so happened that some junior kid was coming into work that day to catch up on some stuff. It's on a Saturday, and that spread like wildfire. And guess what? We never had to field day the building because the entire organization made sure shit was picked up all the time and kept clean. Because if the boss is out,
because they didn't want to see the Commodore doing it.
Yeah, right. And it just set a great example. And I think you can always, that's a default position, is just set the standard and be aware of your weaknesses, and just always be humble, right?
Yeah, and no words were said in that. That's leadership,
None.
absent having to sit there and break people down or yell at people. And oftentimes, you look at the movie Full Metal Jacket, which is fucking amazing.
It's awesome.
And obviously the Marine Corps drill instructor who was hired to be the technical advisor, and I guess the actor just couldn't get it, and they're like, "You're in, dude."
It's the best 15 minutes in any movie.
It's insane. But a lot of people I know think, oh, that's what military leadership is. It's like, listen, that's boot camp.
Right.
And also, that's Marine Corps boot camp.
Right.
Where they're transitioning you from civilian fuckwit to military fuckwit.
Yeah.
So you got to grind the gears and make the sausage a bit. Incredible amounts of oversight, incredible amounts of in-your-face, over-the-top leadership or guidance. But that's not the way that it generally is.
Not at all.
Now, don't get me wrong. I got yelled at plenty of times when I was in the SEAL team.
Sure.
Each and every time deserved.
100%.
I didn't feel like I deserved it in the moment, but like now that I look back, I'm like, yeah, well played.
Dumbass, yeah.
But that, the Commodore out there mowing the lawn is the exact opposite of that.
Totally.
So I can think of a great example too. On the East Coast, newer guy at Gold Squadron, and I would want to come in early in the morning and work out. And I remember doing, even in the wintertime in Virginia Beach, which, not necessarily as cold there as it is here.
36 and raining.
But
Nice.
dude, the wind, like doing an early morning run down to the, the South Fence and back.
Yeah.
And I'd go in early, and I remember one time I'm sitting like, yeah, dude, I'm kicking ass. And as I'm going to start my run, my team leader is finishing his run. And he just gives me the little head nod. I was like,
damn it.
God damn it. Like, I can do better. Like, he set the example, totally inspirational and aspirational.
Right on.
He never said a word about it. And then, again, we're surrounded by, even at that command, a few fat fucks who are doing the opposite of that. And that's something you have to be cautious of too, because people are looking at you if you're a leadership position.
Oh, yeah.
And if your words say one thing and your actions say another,
Totally.
be prepared for them to pay attention to the actions, not the words.
Oh, that's such a spot-on assessment. Yeah, and you do see that. All eyes are on you all the time. You roll your eyes in a brief, and that whole point is lost. And I've made that mistake. And
I have also made that mistake.
Yeah, and you can't do that. You just need to be really above reproach in many ways. Behind closed doors, you can vent and
Yeah.
and show some emotion
To the right crowd.
to the right
Not
crowd.
to your subordinates.
Oh, absolutely not. No, but I mean, I guess to wrap it all up for the veterans out there. I mean, you know more than you think. So, it's good to have a healthy self-doubt in your abilities. I think that shows humility and it motivates you to improve. But also have some, couple that with confidence. You actually know more than you think you do.
Yep. All right, so the first three are on leadership. This one is a little bit different. I'm curious to get your take on this. A little bit long, too. So, Andy, I enjoy your podcast, and I've heard you speak about emails in your podcast, and you give insight, and I'm seeking advice. I'm having some issues with life and work, and I'm interested if you or anyone you know are experiencing my issues. I'm active, don't live off soda and donuts, and I preface with that due to some of my issues. I'm also a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I exercise regularly, at least to the point of not being a fat slob, but the fight is daily. After a less than banner childhood, I joined the Army National Guard, but due to timing, turned into about 3.5 years active in a deployment in 02-03 to Afghanistan. Okay. My deployment was not all cool movie shit, but we still had some horrible what the fuck moments. Since then, I have been an LEO for 16 years, mostly in the detective field, and have dealt with every horrible kid fucker, dead body, fill in the blank in that time. I don't know if I'm a pussy or it's just wearing on me, but I'm starting to have issues both physically and emotionally. I'm having difficulty focusing, memory issues, simple typing, spelling, and trouble holding in my emotions. I'm no genius, but I hold a master's degree in public policy, and sometimes it takes just an extra second to remember my daughter's name. It's not that I don't know it, it's just that it takes me an extra moment to find it. I used to be able to fall asleep on a scene at work, no matter how horrible. Now I have trouble not crying in front of the family. Every joint in my body is one bad day from giving up. I've had knee surgeries and a pending shoulder. I feel like I'm falling apart both medically and emotionally. I just feel full, like I can't deal with one more scene or one more asshole in the world. Are my symptoms anything you have ever experienced or heard from others when maybe somebody has, or from maybe somebody who has seen or dealt with too much?
Oh, I mean, God, I mean, that's PTSD and TBI in a nutshell, and
it's a lot.
It is a lot, and that's really commonplace, and I think, and it requires to be, like, the fact he's talking about it's huge, and it's finding people you can talk to about it, but there's also, I mean, there's treatments, like we talked about the psychedelic treatments for that,
which I'm going to guess for this person, Elio, that's off the table.
Sure, absolutely, but, it's, I mean, the bulk of the issues, discipline issues we dealt with, or unfortunately, like suicides.
They were a manifestation of I describe this stuff, and again, obviously, I'm not an expert, but I describe people's stress, ability to handle stress. I have a jug here that can hold 1,000 milliliters of water, and maybe that's me.
Yeah.
And then there were other people that could hold a thimble.
Right.
And then there were other people who were a redneck guzzler, 64 ounce.
Yeah.
And so all three of us could be in the same situation, and it starts filling up and filling up and filling up. Some people's will spill over.
Yeah.
Others develop coping mechanisms that help drain it. But at some point, if you don't do something to deal with the volume increasing,
right,
it will splash over. And that is what when you're talking about the discipline issues, in my non-professional opinion, I would say a lot of that was manifesting from the stuff building up inside and just expressing in really shitty behavior or decision making.
Yeah, and it's when he's like, "Am I a pussy?" Like, no, absolutely not, right?
Yeah,
and
you wouldn't have done it for 16 years and done all this stuff if you were a pussy,
right? Yeah, and you can't put like the same threshold on every single. Everybody's going to react differently, and it's not you or your mental toughness; it's just the way your brain's wired, man. And you can't. And it's really hard to fix that. And, first and foremost, don't self-medicate. I mean, how many guys do we know that their lives been ruined or they end tragically?
Or ended up dead in their late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah, from just, pounding booze every night and then getting hooked on drugs or whatever else, trying to find a way to cope. And find those, I think it's hugely important to talk and get a support group. I mean, if there's a support group out there nearby where it's veterans, or just talk to anybody who's another vet to air it out. Initially, up until, the mid-2000s, I think, it really wasn't addressed. And it was never addressed in Vietnam. And,
almost a stigma attached, I would say, to a degree.
Oh, completely. It's like, pussy. And it's like, no, negative, man. People, there's baggage that comes with it. That book on killing, I think, when that came out and people started reading it, that's when you saw a paradigm shift, and certainly an NSW on the mental health aspect of it, and like things like the third location, decompression,
TLD,
stop, and talking about it. And I think once you kind of break the seal on that and you start talking about it, you realize you're not alone. There's thousands of others like you, men and women who served. And again, it's not, there's no minimum threshold for it. You could see one thing and it can affect you for life, or you could, see 1,000 things and you're fine. You can't, it's as unique as each individual is. But I think, talking about it's huge. Don't self-medicate. You got pain, maybe rethink how you're doing your workouts, and good quality nutrition is huge. You see guys with, I think some of the studies are fascinating with a ketogenic diet and MCT oil and brain health. And I think, switch, I remember years ago talking to a dude who was in Gray Team, and we were passing each other, but he's like, "Hey man, you remember when like on those rough nights you're throttling the boat and it's just how bad the nods were? They kept going out every time you took a hard hit." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "The nods were fine. That was your brain." I'm like, "Holy shit!" And it's Pete Scobell. He was out talking about it, and I'm like, "Well, what do you do about it?" And now things have evolved to, like I said, the psychedelics and other treatments. But initially, he's like, the best success I had was kind of doing a keto diet, or and really eating clean
and resetting your brain.
100%. And I think it does that. And then in terms of, like all of us who did time in the military for extended periods, and particularly out on the East Coast there, when you retire and you go into the MRIs and they're looking at your joints, you're like, holy shit, you lit up like a Christmas tree and your body is beat up. So instead of trying to do Tri-Bi-Fran every day, I got smarter and switched to kettlebells and taking, it's okay to take a walk as, cardio.
Yeah. This to me, it's so common. I saw it in myself. I saw it in the SEAL community. Mm-hmm. I get a bunch of emails from LEO like this, and it's just indicative of, if you're having trouble controlling your emotions, or you're always at that point where you're going to lose control of it, that is indicative to me of an issue that you need to handle, or that the issue is going to handle you.
Absolutely.
And so for the LEOs, I've had quite a few reach out because one of their main concerns is getting their badge and gun taken away.
Sure.
So I might be messing this up a little bit. I don't know the size of your department, but I had a guy reach out to me from New York City, basically saying that a lot of large organizations have people that you can get in contact with to talk to, even if you're not a part of that organization.
Cool.
If you're worried about the internal churn coming back to you. So reach out to other organizations or other guys that you know, with the point of not stopping until you find a way to either talk with somebody or join a group or deal with this. Because I understand the desire to not lose your badge and gun. Like, I totally get that. But I want you to get the help that you need, as opposed to having something express on the job with your badge and gun that's going to negatively impact not only you, but the entire occupation.
And you're not going to be able to do it on your own.
Yep.
It's bigger than you, right? So you need, if you try to big tough frogman it out by yourself, it's not going to end well. It'll
handle you if you don't handle it.
100%. It's okay to ask for help. And there's thousands of people out there in the same exact situation and it's good to see people talking about it and getting the help, because it fucking sucks, man, when somebody kills themselves or drinks themselves to death. It's the worst. Tragic, and it's preventable.
Yeah. So. Shifting to the last question, cherry on top, I told you it was coming. This might be the most important question of the day. Longtime listener, first-time caller. After watching the Buds documentary 234, I'm left with a perplexing question. How and when do recruits take a shit during Hell Week, or Buds in general? Also, what are some of the other areas or topics not commonly discussed regarding Buds?
Wow, man. And it's almost like...
Truly a great question.
It is a great question, and I'm going to completely embarrass myself here with a Hell Week story. So you remember the dude I talked about who... in the podcast, who he quit the second he put the regulator in his mouth.
Yes.
So, but he was hard as hell in Hell Week. And we're standing outside the chow hall on base there.
NAB side?
NAB side, paddle out, protecting the boats. And there's no bushes, there's no porta shit or anywhere. And I'm like, hey, Parrish, He's like, "What's up, bro?" I'm like, "I have to take a dump, dude." And he's like, "Bro, it's Hell Week, man. It's the only time in life you're gonna be able to get away with doing it." I'm just trying to hold it in. I knew we had a hygiene inspection coming up, so I just
Let it go right there.
cleared hot and just fired away. But no, I mean, like Buds is so yeah, that
People
was
shit in buds everywhere. I watched a guy
Completely.
shit while running on a 4-mile time run and barely broke stride. Just kicked it out of his greens leg.
Yeah.
And just like a little bit of like one-legged hopping, kicked out a fucking solid turd rock, and then just continued on.
It's terrible, man. Like we had a dude, like every conditioning run, like you had to be in front of him because he it was just falling out of his UDT shorts. But we had one. We were down at Camp Surf, and we were digging this giant ass hole in the sand, and the OIC was like of the training. He's like, "You guys all look like you need to take shits." So lock arms, forward march out into the ocean, waist deep. Prepare to drop trow. Prepare to take shit. And like 30 dudes just ploop.
Yeah. That's actually the most common way the students shit in Hell Week, is we go tell them to go into the ocean and they just take a
Wash
shit.
up. But yeah, like Buds, outside of Hell Week, or people inking during knot tying.
Or pool comp. There's been
A few. It's like octopus, man.
It's
Octopi.
the worst when it's just, and then they're like, oh, I understand why the combat training tank is 99% chlorine and 1% water, as
Totally.
opposed to the other way around.
I tried to do that, not counting for all the, all that kind of stuff in there. You watch kids swim in the pool for 2 hours straight, and nobody gets out to go to the bathroom. And I did the math. It's like a 55-gallon drum of
Piss
urine in
every
that
time.
pool every day. But there's enough time, like in like the schedule is such. It's not, it's not 6 months of 24/7 in your face. So I mean,
That's probably the number one thing I think is not discussed. Is on most weeks it's Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Well, maybe 5 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Yeah. And there's a lunch break in there, and
You have time to go to the bathroom like a normal human being most of the time.
That's
in
Hell
training.
Week, and I think that's or not Hell Week. That's first phase, and second phase is a little bit more of a grind because the night shifts or the night dies. But
We still give them bathroom breaks
Yeah,
and,
you still
and
give them
food
bathroom.
breaks and all sorts of stuff.
yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges of first phase, especially is you're done at 5 at night, and you have all that time to think about all the shit you got to deal with the next day because it's going to start all over again and
Yeah.
be equally as bad.
Yeah, I've watched far too many human beings shit. I think for
100%.
like a sample size of one, just me. Like I've seen way too many strangers shit. It's God, it was the worst. Because we would make the person who shit, usually upon passing out, get a garbage baggie and then go and collect all the fucking particles that they could. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Like you'd see it knot tying. It would happen all the time. Anytime you're in a breath hold and
Probably
you're
like the
panicking.
50 underwater too. I'm sure that got a couple people.
Oh yeah.
Inking is the best way to put
Inking,
it.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like you'd be observing it, you see like a cloud, and it's like, oh god damn it, out of the pool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What else? What else is not discussed about buds? I mean, to be honest, it's pretty well documented at this point. I bet you could go online and find a day-by-day schedule,
Oh, totally.
at least written by a student.
Yeah.
So if people are going to do that, are they looking to do that as a training tool? Just be cautious. It may not be completely accurate. But yeah, I don't know.
And even if it is, you can't. What it looks like on paper is nothing what it's going to be like on land.
Yeah. And maybe the only other thing that's not talked about as much is just how chafed some sensitive areas of your
Holy
body
crap.
get.
Yeah. And then when I went through, they switched to the button fly camis, but
Yeah.
we used to have those greens with the zipper.
That's what I had.
Oh, I mean, I caught myself in that quite a few times.
Oh, yeah, like an aggressive zip up.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
and then you don't even know how to. I mean, you're just so emasculated at that point. You don't know. You're just kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? I can't. You don't want to pull it down. It's what's that scene? Something about Mary.
Yes.
How'd you get the beans above the Franks?
God. They sprayed it with the antiseptic. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
God.
like, okay, I've seen that happen probably once a day in first phase with those greens.
That's the best ending ever. On that note, let's get you to the airport.
Fucking A.
On the west bank of the river.
That's A-firm, West Bank. It gives me Hill. Hill, give it to me in the Grove.
Okay, one's in from the north. I've got the west bank of the river. Two's going to give it to you in the grove.
Roger, give me that gun run. Right along that bag, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, whether you're listening on an audio-only platform or you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate that you take the time every week to tune in. People ask me a lot, what can they do to help me spread the word? And the answer is actually embedded in the question. The biggest thing you guys can do to help me, if you enjoy the podcast and you think it would be helpful to others, is subscribe and share it with other people. And if you have the time, go on to Apple Podcasts and leave me a rating and a review. If you think the podcast sucks, tell me it sucks and leave a 0-star review or the lowest stars possible. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion, you can go to clearedhotpodcast.com. And there is a contact me button right there, which will land in my inbox. And the last thing, if people are interested in helping out, what you can do is fly the old flag. And by that, I don't mean an actual flag, because I don't have any of those. I'm talking about t-shirts or sweatshirts or hats, whatever it may be. Again, clearedhotpodcast.com. Click on the shop tab, and hopefully something in there looks like it would be an item you would like to wear around town. And then you can tell people what it is when they ask you. But that is it. The biggest thing I can say is thank you. I truly appreciate it. And until next time, see you.